We're in the town of Qualicum Beach on the east side of Vancouver Island at St. Andrew's Park, St. Andrew's Lodge, a historic building in this town. And we're looking at the beach, and we'll go from here looking at how unique this sort of place is. I'm Terry Taylor, and I'm a naturalist in British Columbia on the east coast of Vancouver Island. I've been studying the plants and the ecology of coastal British Columbia for over 50 years. And what we're looking at right now is a beach habitat. I want to tell you how unique the plants are and how delicate the habitat is in a site of this nature. This little plant here is an annual plant, a native plant. Again, it only occurs along beaches of this nature. It's called peppergrass. Although it isn't actually a grass, it's a member of the mustard family. You notice all the little pinkish objects on it. These are the little seed cases. It's finished flowering. This particular one is the Virginia peppergrass. This plant here flowers later on in the summer. It's called gumweed, Puget Sound gumweed. And Puget Sound is just a little bit south of us. We're on Vancouver Island. Puget Sound is down to the south near Seattle. And so the original ones were named for the ones that are growing in the Puget Sound area. Very sticky, very thick evergreen leaves to protect it against the extreme environment here. Very strongly rooted in the sand. It's a perennial with a very deep taproot going down into the sand to gather moisture. This is one of our common plants growing along the beaches here. It's called silver burrweed. It only occurs along beaches. So even if you're quite familiar with the plants along the coast of Vancouver Island, there's a good chance you've never seen this unless you've spent some time looking at plants on beaches. Now it's quite an unusual sort of plant. It's a perennial. It's called silver burrweed because the underside of the leaves are silvery, and even the upper part as well. You see how silvery they are in this area here from protective hairs that are on the surface to reflect the sunlight away and keep it cool. On the top are the pollen flowers, the male flowers that produce pollen. It's wind pollinated. Down below there are the female flowers, and they've now gone to seed. This is why it's called burrweed. These are little burrs. They catch in the fur of animals that are going along the beach, and that's how it spreads from place to place. And it's on the ground like this, spreading across the sand. This shows the silver burrweed close up. Here's the burrs at the bottom. They're made for animals that are coming through here to take them to other places along the beach. The seeds, of course, are in there. And these are the male flowers that produce the pollen. And it's wind pollinated, so this pollen blows in the wind. And of course, this is a windy habitat. You may not know what this plant is, but you are very familiar with it. This is a carrot. They're really common on Vancouver Island, all over the place, along roadways, along beaches. But this is the original carrot. This is the wild carrot, sometimes called Queen Anne's lace. This is the plant that our domestic carrot was developed from. The little plant we're looking at right now is an annual plant. It's a clover. It's called the hare's foot clover because it has very soft hairs on it, like the foot of a rabbit. And it's actually an introduced plant, but it prefers these sorts of habitats, growing where it's very poor soil, very sandy, rocky areas where it doesn't have to compete with other vegetation. And this is it all through here. Hare's foot clover, very common in these disturbed areas and sandy beaches. Very characteristic of the upper beaches along the coast here is the dune grass, American dune grass. It's a perennial, has very, very deep roots to get down to the water table, and it protects itself by having this waxy coating on the blades of this grass. Very thick blades, again, for protection. And you can spot it very easily, even at a distance, because of this color and the big, thick leaves. We're a little bit closer to the shoreline now, more extreme environment, and again we're finding plants that we didn't see before, ones that can't compete with other plants, and other plants can't live in this sort of habitat, so these things are restricted to this very narrow habitat farther down the beach. This is American sea rocket, very thick leaves to prevent water loss. And it has these little pink flowers with 4 petals. It's a member of the mustard family. We're right out about as far as we can get and still have plants growing on this beach. This little plant here is an annual. It's called orac, a member of the goosefoot family, and it grows in this really just straight sand. Very resistant to the effects of the sea. Now there's another problem with plants growing here. Not only does it dry out, it's all this. The sand, of course, is also full of soil, of salt, and so you need plants in a habitat like this that can stand desiccation and high salt content. And this is a nice tranquil beach scene. This is what people think of when they think of beaches. Nice sunny place where you can sit down on the sand against the logs. But take a notice of these logs. They're all bunched up together. Nobody put them here. This is what happens in the winter time. So it's a little different in the winter time. Another thing that all the things that live here have to adapt to. When a big storm comes in, all these logs are thrown up against the shore. The waves come right across all these plants that are growing on the shoreline. And many people who live close to the beach here have very strongly built concrete and stone protective walls, because every now and then, every few years, the water actually comes right up to your property. Just to conclude, I would like to mention a conservation issue. We all enjoy beaches of this nature. Just remember that this is a really fragile environment. When you come down on the beach, watch out for these little birds, the killdeers where they lay their eggs, and walk around the plants rather than through them. Although these right here, these are not rare and endangered species. With enough people coming through this sort of habitat, they can become endangered. A lot of the things that are now endangered on beach strand of this nature at one time were quite common, so bit by bit we're losing our botanical resources. And this, if we want to maintain the beauties of our beaches, even though you may not notice it, but this background of these plants and flowers is part of the beauty and the attraction of our shorelines.